Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019. Thank you for joining us tonight on our evening edition of the Grand Solar Minimum. We got a lot to talk about tonight, mainly climate related, but I want to start off, of course, like every show, with a look at our space weather. Right now, our solar wind speeds are still sitting at a low 313.7 kilometers per second, with a density of 9.0. Now, tomorrow we have some possible solar wind stream to affect Earth's magnetic field. That is by December 4th. Again, we are monitoring that right now. We have not seen any signs of increased solar winds, but the night is young. 20 days without sunspots in 2000, actually 20 days without sunspots here in the recent streak, and 256 days for 2019 without sunspots. Our KP indices went up from this morning. We were at all zeros. Now we're both at a 1, and our 24-hour max is also at a 1. And right now the TCI is is unchanged from this morning at 3.34. No sunspots again, no large coronal holes. Let's take a look at our TSI because we haven't done that in quite some time. The reading came in for November 25th, the 26th at 1360.650. Again, the TSI not really moved from the last time we reported this, which was weeks ago, but still, as you can see, we're looking at values between 1360.6 and 1360.7. Let's go to our website here, the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Actually, the grandsolarminimum.com, and we can take a better look at what we have coming on the horizon. Right now is nothing. No large coronal holes to speak of, maybe an active region in the negative 180 region, but really just some minor activity and low chances of any kind of large coronal holes here in the near future. So our star is going to remain quiet, and we could expect a long period of time with low solar winds. So interesting. The conditions, most time, folks, you'll hear me talk about earthquake watches at 1, KP of 1, and 24-hour max of 1. But we're not dealing with a Earth-facing coronal hole. And that's one of the things that I've noticed with when our KP indices tend to become low, and then we see coronal holes. Let me get my trusty blue arrow up here. Usually what I'm seeing when we have Earth-facing coronal holes and the KP indice is at 0 or 1, that's when I kind of go ahead and make the confident shot that we're going to have an earthquake that could register at 6.0 or higher. But we do not have those conditions right now. So really the KP indice being low is not doing much to our seismic activity at the moment. Now that could change. But as we see here, we have nothing really going on over the next several days, could be weeks before we see a sunspot or a large coronal hole that could form into a little bit of issue for us as far as solar wind, but it is low right now. All right, let's move on to tonight's topics. And I tell you, today was a interesting day. I didn't get a chance to talk about Dr. Roy Spencer's temperatures yet. But everybody has saw the numbers right now, and we were talking about, I was confident to see numbers actually drop to 0.38. That was my actual prediction on that. And surprisingly, we did not see that. And I'm willing to try to explain this a little bit tonight. I'm not saying this is accurate to the point, but these are some of the reasons that we're getting, and it kind of makes sense to me. So I also want to point out, too, that Joe Bastardi, last year, this time, we were looking at this graph right here. And Joe had said right about where I'm pointing, from here on over would be the next plateau of temperatures. Now, we've seen a drop. We've seen an increase, and we're seeing a drop again just slightly. It's possible that we are going to be witnessing another downtrend after this month. And I'll tell you why I believe that. Not because I want it to happen so bad, but just from the explanations that I'm getting right now, this is starting to make a little sense. So we had temperatures at 0.61, 0.55. It actually dropped to 0.46 for October, then rose back up to 0.55 in November. Now, the reason why this is relevant at this point to me, and why I wanted to mention Joe Bastardi, again, he predicted this right here, that temperatures would continue on this plateau right here, right in this area, not so much up here. But when we were following this last year, and he was kind of show us these step-up plateaus, well, he's right so far. But I do expect to start to see declining once again here, and the reason why I expect that is because of a little situation that we're going to be dealing with here soon, and that is the stratospheric warming event that's to take place in the Arctic. Now, we spoke about this late in November, and now we're starting to get a little more sense of when and where. Right now, we would have to say that this is somewhere in mid-month December, around the 10th or beyond, or later. But the reason why I wanted to show this right here is if this sudden stratospheric warming happens the way it looks like right here in the top of your screen, we are in for a very cold January. And watching weatherbell.com, listening to Joe Bastardi, he was discussing that this is a similar setup that we had back in 1977. And many of you remember the winters of 77, 78, 78, 79. And I've always said this the last couple of years, that 2019 could rival the winter of the late 70s. So when I heard Bastardi's forecast today about the possibility of looking at a stratospheric warming event in the Arctic, okay, we had one in October in the southern hemisphere, and that's why we saw temperatures where we saw them, which were at the 0.61, which is right here. So October, we had a very strong, rare, sudden atmospheric warming event. Now, what does this mean? We're at 0.55 right now for November. If we get this sudden stratospheric warming, does that mean we could see another peak? Very possible. I really thought November was going to come in much cooler just because of the United States, how cold it's been. The snow we've seen here in Canada, United States. Australia, still getting cold winter weather. Russia has been pretty cold. It's been pretty cold over Eurasia. Not my Eurasia, but Eurasia. Not my Asia. Okay. But on a serious note, we could see one more spike before we start seeing temperatures decline. And when I say that, I think back to Joe Bastardi talking about this new plateau. Another spike could be possible for December, not as high as the one we had in February of 16, but it could rival this 0.61 that we just had in October. We could be looking at something in the 7s, possibly flirting with the 8s, before starting to see temperatures drop down. And the reason why I say they will drop down is because of this setup right here. So if this holds like it's been predicted for a while now, this is January 1st, by the way, folks. The eastern United States, the southern United States, the middle part of the United States, definitely will see some much colder air, and some serious shots of cold Arctic air are going to happen during this period of time. Which is kind of, last year we had the same situation with the sudden stratospheric warming event. We saw a mild to moderate December, and then boy, did the wheels fall off in January. And that's the kind of the setup that we're getting right now. Now, it's been cold already in November, and we've seen plenty of snowfall. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and go over to What's Up With That. They are reporting early snow cover record set for USA, a foot of snow in 25 states. Snow cover over the lower 48, most extensive on record for early December going back to 2003. At least a foot of snow has fallen in 25 different states over the last few days, and snow has fallen as far south as Southern California, Tennessee, and northern Georgia. Snow covered the ground of nearly half of the real estate on the lower 48, 46.2% of the land area on Monday morning, the largest area on December 2nd. Snow cover since records began recorded in 2003. A little more than a quarter of the nation has snow on the ground at this time of the year. So definitely a record. And this was kind of last year too. In November, we started seeing more snow in November. And then we had a dried up December where temperatures weren't quite as cold. This is the most recent area that's seen their foot. It's been getting snow after snow after snow in the Northwest. There, I said it. Weather in the Northwest. Just kidding, Blake. Anyway, but we will see cold air, snow across the northern part, Northwest. I'll tell you something right now, and it's funny that you mentioned that in the chat before the show started, because I will show the GFS, and the most busiest part of the United States over the next several days is going to be, yes, the Midwest and the Northeast, but also it's going to be a mess in the Northwest. Maybe I can make a bumper sticker on that one.
He's calling it liar, not in northeast part of Oregon. Liar. What did you say?
I don't know. Anyway,
he's angry.
He's hangry. Have a Snickers. All right, freezing to start. Summer as heavy snow blankets Australian Alps. Again, this is confusing. I get it. But there's so many explanations. And, you know, where was that at? Here. So here's some of the interesting comments over Dr. Roy Spencer's page here. Check out the last three readings for the South Pole. Negative 0.04, and then 0.98, and then 1.59. Could the Antarctic, Southwest, or Southern Stratospheric warming still be impacting us? We also have one trying to form in the Northern Hemisphere. Yes, I think so. Looks like they're talking about temperatures where they're still affected from the south of the Southern Stratospheric warming event. Yeah, well, it's just 1 month, and I agree the current warmth in the South Pole region isn't going to be sustained for very long, but the 1.59 reading isn't that unusual either. The 1.55 occurred in 2016, and 1.52 occurred in 2012. Both of those appear to be related to Southern Stratospheric warming events as well. So these stratospheric phenomena, basically anomalies, continue to happen, and that's what's throwing off what we trendsetters like to think that's supposed to be cooling. But when you don't account for things like this, that's where the curveball's thrown in. And the other thing too that we heard a lot about was lack of sea ice right now. It is not quite all the way filled in. So it's not that the waters are warm in the northern part of our hemisphere, but the fact that we're not looking at as much snow and ice reflecting energy back into space. So until we get that sea ice all the way formed, that's going to continue to be a factor of warming as well. But guys, I got to be honest with you. I'm trying to feed you the truth, and there's still part of me that feels like that there's still something not adding up with the data. Because I had people in the comment section talking about how the NOAA map was showing that it was going to be a warmer, or is warmer, than what the actual temperatures are. Someone from Southeast Florida was talking about, NOAA said it was going to be that temperatures are warm, but it's actually about 5 to 8 degrees off. Again, I know a lot of us here in the United States are kind of like, well, it's been cold and snowy. How is this possible? It actually shows a reading for the United States of warming for the month of November. So a lot to go over here. I'm still kind of deciphering this stuff. I'm listening to everyone's explanations. But the one I really think is going to be true is what we see here in January. December, honestly, I'm going to call it now. If we get this sudden stratospheric warming event, expect it to peak again, possibly up to 0.70 above baseline. And with this setup that we're getting ready to have here, and let me show you one more time, this is going to be the reason why we have a cold January. This is a similar situation, according to Joe Bastardi. This is the similar situation that we had right before we got a serious shot of Arctic air in 1977. And also, while I'm thinking about it, what else is going to be a factor in this winter as well as far as cold temperatures? Scott Rose kind of brought this to my attention as well. But here's little old Earth, and we're going to be out here all winter by ourselves. Nobody is going to be out here with Earth. So it's going to be a lonely, cold winter for sure. That also means that we have a weaker magnetic connection to our sun, being the only thing on this invisible line here that goes across. These planets will rotate around right here, and Earth will be out here where there is only one planet with a magnetic connection. The rest of the solar system is going to be over here. So many factors, again, so many factors to kind to throw together and try to make sense of some of this temperature data that we're getting. But again, we'll keep monitoring it, and this has not yet fully come to fruition yet. But once it does, if it does, and if it does in the rate that they're showing us right now, this could be a serious problem for January and February, as we could see some serious cold and really bad winter. Now, this will be the case for parts of Asia, Russia, and the United States. They're not mentioning too much in the UK or Europe about getting bad, but they did say that we did have more winter weather in Europe when we have these kinds of warming events that set up. So, but right now it feels like that they're hinting at the United States, Canada will be getting the worst of this cold Arctic air when all of this takes place and goes through the motion. But speaking of cold, freezing start to summer as heavy snow blankets Australian Alps. Unseasonal snow marked the first day of summer in parts of Australia, states of Victoria and New South Wales on December 1st, 2019. A foot of snow fell in many parts of Victoria, blanketing the Alps. How about that? So on December 1st, a foot of snow fell on the first day of meteorological summer in Australia, and a foot of snow fell in many spots of the Northeast in the United States. How interesting is that? To get a summer snow, or not quite summer snow, and a not quite winter snow of a foot or more. Falls Creek and Hotham Alpine Resort in Victoria and the Perisher Ski Resort in New South Wales experienced major snow on Monday. Unreal. I mean, good for the skiing industry, but this is summer in the Australian alpine villages. Good eye, mate. No barbecues this weekend. Again, I just don't understand how we're getting these temperature readings as cold or as warm as they are. I guess there's a lot to go into this than I thought, but summertime snow to me is not global warming. It's not man-made climate change. It's just absolutely ridiculous how everything that we've talked about on this channel, the science behind these solar minimums, cloud nucleation, lack of TSI, so we're, less light, less warming, more cosmic rays in the atmosphere causing cloud nucleation, creating heavier snows, heavier rainfalls. All that's happening. And we're explaining to you why. We're giving you the reasons why it's happening. It's not some guy like Al Gore telling you that, it's snowing because of global warming. They offer no science to why they say we are warming. They talk about this 100-year carbon cycle of greenhouse gases. But folks, I'm here to tell you, with enough nitrogen in the atmosphere and in the bedrock, that CO2 gets absorbed big time. So their argument on CO2 building up over 100 years of time is just it's not correct whatsoever. Severe storm hits New Zealand, marking the start of their summer in the country. Severe storm, see, it's just right, not too far away. Severe storm hits parts of New Zealand on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, bringing heavy rain and strong winds. The lower North Island and portions of the South Island were among the most affected areas. Let's see if we have any footage of this. 65-mile-an-hour winds were reported at Wellington Airport. Gusts of 85 miles an hour at the peak of Mont Cow. I would assume that's how you pronounce that. There's your GSM funny for the night. Down trees and power lines, heavy winds. Check this out. Wow. That tree has been uprooted, folks. Massive winds to be able to create something like this. But again, saturation, heavy rains, and the mixture of strong winds will do this. So while we're dealing with snow in Australia, New Zealand's dealing with a massive storm. And this bridge actually probably should have been closed. Actually, you start to see it flashing X's, meaning these lanes will be closed. I know in Buffalo they have, I think it's Route 5, the big old bridge out there near downtown. The Skyway gets closed whenever we get some serious wind in Buffalo, and that's a funny statement because Buffalo is constantly windy. And I wanted to check out, Mari reported today about the French fry situation. I've seen 3 different articles on this today. No fries, U.S. potato crop, cold weather woes. Yeah, that's kind of a thing right now. Look at these numbers, guys. U.S. potato crop forecast, lowest since 2010 after cold weather. Mari talked about this as well, where farmers have noticed this is the slowest harvest they've experienced since 2010. 2010. Slowest harvest, 2010. What happened in 2010, Mari?
Well, we're coming out of a solar minimum.
Exactly. We're still kind of in the low part of it. The 09 was the peak, the bottom of it. 10 is still kind of low. So we've heard about the coldest weather they've ever experienced was in 2010. This potato crop is the lowest, one of the lowest since 2010. Guess what? 11 years from 2010 is 2021. So it's interesting to see how much more we could see these numbers continue to drop when it comes to potato crops. But potato processors are rushing to buy supplies and ship them across North America in order to keep French fries on the menu after cold, wet weather damaged crops in key producers in the U.S. and Canada. Cool conditions started to hit growing regions in October, lashing potatoes with frost. Farmers in Alberta and Idaho were able to dig up some damaged crops for storage, but growers in Manitoba, North Dakota, and Minnesota received snow and rain, forcing them to abandon some supplies in the fields. As the weather hurt crops, an increase in frying process capacity in Canada has boosted demand. The combination will lead to the tight supplies, and it's likely that potato prices could climb this year across North America. I'm going to stop it right there. You can go to McDonald's right now and get a large French fry here in upstate New York for about $3.99. That's right, folks. You heard it. For the low price of $3.99, you can get an order of large French fries. I guess my point is that we're already starting to see the potato prices go up, and more pictures of fields looking like this. The United Potato Growers of Canada estimates about 12,000 Manitoba acres, or 18% of the province's planted area, were left unharvested. Let me repeat that, folks. 18% of the potato crop here has been left unharvested, equal to what has been abandoned for all of Canada last season. This is just in one region. This one region equals what we had in the entire Canada when they left damaged crops in the fields. It's just this one little area has already surpassed last year's number overall. Prince Edward Island is number 1. The government will issue estimates for the nation's crop on December 6th. That's just a couple of days away. The U.S. Department of Agriculture forecasts domestic output will drop by 6.1% this year, to the lowest since 2010. The agency said in November 8 report in Idaho, top producer output forecast to fall by 5.5%. We have the shortage briefly this year in some of our grocery stores and markets. I know in some of the Walmarts out here, we were out of peas and green beans and also instant potatoes. A lot of stories going around back then too that potato producers around the country were desperate for any shape, size, and form of a potato for their processing plants. They were so far behind. The panic button was definitely on this year. So if 18% in just one area of Manitoba is gone, I don't want to hear the numbers here in the U.S., especially if what Mario was talking about in her presentation yesterday, if 2020 is just equal of what we had in 2019, that's bad enough because we're already dealing with soil saturation. A lot of folks out there think this year in 2020 is going to be really bad for winter, spring, summer, fall, and again, going into winter from 2020 to 2021. Before we start to see some normality return, whatever that means. 21, 22 could be like 2017. And then when we get to 22, 23, we could be looking at conditions like 16, 24, and 25 will be more like 14 and 15 conditions. But try to picture it like this. Remember what the weather was like in 2013 through 16? Cut that in half on the heat. Mainly the heat. Cut that in half. Sunspots, lack of them. A lot less than what we're going to have in the previous solar cycle when we had a solar max. We may not have much of a solar max coming up in 23 through 25. So again, lots of scary things we're talking about here early. And this is only the appetizer, folks. Once we get past this week maximum that we're going to go through in 2024, 2025, and 2026, after that, I think a lot of people are on the same page that into the 2030s, the bottom is going to fall out. And this is just a taste test of what is to come. We haven't seen the full power of this solar cycle, the grand solar minimum yet. This is just the beginning. It's only starting right now. Let's talk about snow. Again, 6 feet of snow in the Sierras. California, if you love ditching the Bay Area for ski slopes around Lake Tahoe, several resorts received more than 6 feet of snow this past week, National Weather Service reported on Monday. The only problem is getting there and back. Says the Caltrans and the Nevada Department of Transportation shut down roads for hours over the holiday weekend because they were impassable. The biggest winners were Squaw Valley with 75 inches of snow through Monday morning, and North Star had 73 inches. Another half foot of snow is expected through Monday night. If you'd like to take another crack at getting to Tahoe this coming weekend, another storm is expected to barrel through just in time for the weekend. Let's check out some of these wind gusts that we had on some of these mountains. Mount St. Helen, west, 67 mile an hour. That was the winner as far as the gust. Rose Peak was at 65 miles per hour. That was their peak gust. Half Moon Bay at 48 miles per hour. Cobb Ridge west at 57 miles per hour. Mount Diablo, 57 miles per hour, and the peak wind gust at Oak Ridge in 24 hours was 58 miles per hour. And speaking of California and somewhat Northwest, there are 2 rounds of rains and mountain snow to head over California. One will bring precipitation to the Golden State midweek, and another storm will bring weather to the majority of the state by the end of the week. California will receive 2 more rounds of rain and mountain snow through this weekend, continuing a stormy period that kicked off before Thanksgiving. Although drier conditions were in place for most of Tuesday, the next round of rain and mountain snow will be more ashore into Wednesday. And as you can see here, folks, the mountains, once again, expecting over a foot. This is just the first round of rain here. This is in Southern California mainly is the rain. Los Angeles, San Diego, not expected to see flooding-like conditions, but then the weekend changes up. More snow for the mountains, and the rain is going to be more in Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. And there's going to be a mix of rain, sleet, and snow all across the Northwest this coming weekend. So it's going to be pretty messy out there. San Diego nearly missed a top 10 wettest November despite not receiving any measurable rain until November 19. That means cosmic rays have a big hand in that, folks. The fact that they're almost in the top 10 of wettest November of all, and it didn't even rain for almost 20 days, measurably. That's crazy. Break from blockbuster winter storms to provide brief reprieve for parts of the U.S. Yes, it is going to remain a little less crazy, but the Northeast, oh yes, the Northeast is not done. And it's not going to be another major, but we are expecting light snow starting with Tuesday night. Buffalo, Toronto, Syracuse, light snow, diminishing winds. Wednesday night, more lake effect snow. Erie, PA, you might actually see some decent snowfall from this. Buffalo, the south towns of Buffalo, definitely in play for some decent snows from this, and parts of upstate New York, Syracuse, Utica. And thankfully, the capital region and upstate, the areas that just received a foot or more of snow, will be pretty much not in the area where we could affect any kind of accumulation. Snow through Wednesday through Thursday, Buffalo, Erie, PA, still. So it's going to be a snowy one in western New York, Erie, PA, and parts of northeast Ohio. And by the time we head to Thursday to Friday night, that's right, a brief burst of snow, travel disruptions, cold follows. Heavy snow to be expected, but we're talking about the 2 to 4 inches. The problem is that it's going to fall pretty quick. This is going to be like our old school Alberta Clipper that's going to be coming through. And speaking of snow totals, well, let's talk about what we saw from Ezekiel. And right here, we'll leave the link in the description later on. We have the totals for pretty much all around us here in New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, the Berkshire counties here. Let's see, Williamstown, 17.5 inches. That was your winner in Massachusetts. Hancock, 15.5 inches. Litchfield County and Cannon, Connecticut, got 6 inches of snow. And then you go into Albany. Knox got 22.1 inches of snow. South Burney, 19 inches of snow. Albany International Airport, 17.3 inches of snow. And the capital itself picked up 15.7. Other places picking up decent amount of snow across the New York part. Broadalbin. Broadalbin. See, you don't even know how to say it. And you're
Broadalbin.
from here. Broadalbin at 18 inches. Stratford, 17 inches. Johnstown, 16 inches. Catskill got a foot of snow. Hamilton County, not as much. They only got 8 inches or so. And then we get here, Rensselaer County, East Greenbush, 17 inches of snow. Pretty decent amount, folks. Saratoga Springs picked up almost 15 inches of snow. Meanwhile, Schenectady picking up well over 20 inches of snow. East Glenville, 25.2 inches of snow. Again, Schoharie, 23 inches. Warnerville, 18 and a half. Warrensburg picked up 8 inches of snow. Glens Falls picked up around 11 inches of snow. It's not the official report, but it is the report I'm giving. And really, just taking a look up and down, we had quite a few areas like Charlton, 21 inches, Malta, 21 inches, South Clifton Park, 21 and a half inches, Boston Lake, 21 inches, Boston Spa, 18.5 inches of snow. So lots of snow here in the capital region, mainly Albany, Schenectady. Those areas picked up the most snow. If you go further up I-87, Saratoga and north, you only saw about a foot to 14 inches of snow. Now, I'm not saying only 12 to 14 as if it's not that big of a deal, but just giving you an idea of where the intense snowfall was. It was definitely further south in New York, definitely closer to the capital region in Albany. New York City didn't really pick up a whole bunch. Maybe at 3 to 6 inches in isolated areas. But the bulk of this storm, the story was definitely here in Albany, where the National Guard was actually called in to help clean up. And actually, this is from a friend of mine who is in that area. And he received 23 inches of snow at his house. He snowblowed at 8 p.m., went to bed, got up this morning, and had about another 8 to 10 inches of snow to clear off after he finished doing it the night before for a couple of hours. So, all right, let's take a look at our GFS outlook, folks, and see exactly. Now, remember, I'm combining this right here to be the culprit on why we don't see as much cold in the Northeast, in the upper plains, and the actually the Ohio Valley and Northeast, why we won't see as cold of temperatures, because I think the coldest of the cold is definitely going to happen towards the later part of December and the early part of January. But let's go ahead and take a look at our forecast. Now, if you already noticed here in the Northwest, not forgetting you folks in that, you guys are part of the busiest part of this weather map. BC and Alberta, snow and rain coming into Oregon and Washington. There's that first wave of rain to come in onshore across California, Nevada, Utah, and New Mexico. Dry out in the northwest, dry in the plains, and dry in the Midwest. Some lake effect snows across the New York and upstate. And then we get that quick little system to move through that could give us 1 to 3 inches in the northeast. And then a huge low pressure system to make sure here on Saturday, December 7th. This will affect Oregon, Washington, Northern California, and all the way through the Sierras. This weather system sticks around Saturday into Sunday, into Monday even. Light showers finally tapering down for the northwest. Now Montana, North Dakota, and Minnesota, northern parts will be dealing with snow showers. And look at that. Rain across the northeast and Ohio valleys, Pennsylvania. Some mixed precipitation. But guys, what's going on here is this ridging. And that is bringing warmer temperatures. Also bringing tropical moisture into this region will also help rise the temperatures a little bit too. I'm not talking about let's get the shorts and sandals out, but it will be too warm for snow during this event as we get a cold front that's following right behind this. This thing's a powerful low pressure system. And I'm kind of thankful that's all rain because that would be a pretty nasty snowstorm by next week. But again, more lake effect snows for Erie, PA, and Buffalo, New York, and the South towns. Much colder in as you see those isobars, how close they are. That's going to be a windy situation, of course, for the northern plains, the Midwest, and of course the Northeast. More showers and snow trying to make its way into the Northwest through Oregon and Washington. Heavy bouts of rain and snow to move through. High pressure is trying to dominate in the Northeast on Friday, December 13th. But here's what happens. December 14th, we get a quick little clipper system. And it's too far out to really tell, but the temperatures could be cold enough for all snow. Right now, we're showing freezing rain to rain and then all snow by the time this event is over with on December 16th. So what I thought could have been a really messy situation on the 15th and 16th could end in just 1 to 3 inches of snow. But right behind it is another system that is making its way towards the northeast from the northern plains. Ohio, parts of Columbus, Ohio is where that freeze line begins as this storm treks towards the northeast. Again, this is a long ways out, but by December 18th, another massive low pressure storm. Now watch just right behind this, folks. We have this storm right here. Watch this area right here as this low pressure races off. Another one fires up right behind it. So we get a quick 1-2 here on the 18th as there's your second low pressure system right there. So here is the top of this. All right. And then we have another major system starting to get its act together right behind it. So this is off into Canada, Toronto, Ontario, and then a pretty good sized winter storm moving across the Great Lakes into the Northeast, bringing colder air across the region. And at this moment, we're just talking about some light snow. But if you look back to the west, again, more rain to the northwest coming in from the Pacific. And then Northern California has a good shot at more heavy snow by the mid part of this month. Now, the reason why these temperatures could remain warmer enough to support rain is if we get that sudden stratospheric warming to begin at the midpoint of the month. I'm not so sure that these GFS models are reflecting that at this point, but everything really hinges on what's going to happen here and when this is going to happen. And if it happens like a lot of people think, I know Joe Bastardi made the correlation that when this happened in 77, this exact formation here of warming, it gave us some very brutal cold Arctic air for much of January and February. And we're already expecting a cold winter. So hang on to your hats, folks. This could get bumpy. Enjoy what we have right now because it's not going to last as far as the easygoing, mild, I shouldn't say mild, but not as cold December months. That does not look like to be as bad. As we've seen, temperatures in October and November have been colder than this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the temperatures, actually. How you doing, Mari?
I'm doing fantastic. Jake.
So,
typing with my...
We've got cold air invading by the first week of December, but milder air is trying to hold that off. Now, you see a massive Arctic blast trying to make its way into the United States here by the mid part of this month. And really, it kind of just stalls out in Canada and stays up there. And interesting term that Joe Bastardi had for it. this particular area up here basically is like a dam, and it's not letting any cold air from the North Arctic drop into the United States. And this has something to do also with that sudden stratospheric warming event that will be taking place by this point. Now, once that event is wrapping up, stuff like this right here, we're watching to be in this region right here. It could be very, very cold for the month of January and February in this region right here. Still watching out here as well. You guys will start to see that cold air filtering in the northwest through the northern plains. But really, as we get towards the end of the month, we see some ridging possible. Here's that cold. And that, my friends, it's hard to tell the daytime and nighttime lows. Look at that. It doesn't really change. So when we get to the middle of December, we've got daytime lows, -24 across North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Minnesota. Some really cold air to come through. These are daytime highs, by the way, as well. So GFS is saying that we're going to start to see some really cold air towards the end of the month. Other people believe it's going to be later in December, possibly early January, before we see the real cold Arctic air. But according to this, and if this is not factoring in the sudden stratospheric warming, this was why it might be off. But right now, we are looking at some very cold temperatures to try to make its way here into the United States. Somewhere around December 8th is probably the last somewhat mild, and you see this cold air just dropping like a rock, guys. Look at that. And each day it goes by, it continues to travel further south. So lots to worry about, lots to talk about. This is just part of a cycle, guys. The only thing I can say about this is that I'm going to go ahead and say it now. If we got this stratospheric warming situation happening, expect December numbers to be right here before we start seeing things plummet once again, probably ending by spring, somewhere in the average in this area right here, which would continue the trend and this current plateau that Bastardi was talking about last year this time. So interesting that I remembered that, but interesting that he kind of called this as well, of this temperature kind of going back and forth right here and here, up and down. But again, do I expect anything to go above this? No. Maybe somewhere in this area, yes. And then after that, we could start seeing a lot colder air parts of the Northern Hemisphere, Asia, and the United States, and parts of Europe as well. All right, that's going to do it for me tonight. Mario, would you like to say hello to everyone in the chat out there in Grand Solar Minimum Land?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone in the chat. We have Dark Skywatcher in the chat. He's
hello there, Paul.
Doing some stuff.
How's the snow treating you out there?
I think EarthCam, his border stuff, because YouTube doesn't like him wandering around that border. So I'd like to thank SoulQuest and Matt Bros for their super chats. Very kind. Thank you very much. SoulQuest says thanks for all you do, and Matt Bros put. He has a show idea. He wants to cover how to address friends and family about GSM over the holiday dinner table. What facts to lead with. So maybe we should
Saturday night
do like a cheat sheet.
Well, what about doing the call-in show Saturday night and make that the topic? That's a great idea. I mean,
discuss different ideas.
Have people call in and say, how would you approach it? So let's just go ahead and make that for Saturday's topic on our call-in show. How do you talk to your family members? How do you talk to your close friends about this? Because most of them... How do you
break the ice? And how do you break through the cognitive dissonance of it all? There's different angles that you have to take because a lot of people can't believe that they've been lied to. Just why would the media and all these movie stars on TV lie to them? You have to break through that. And, sometimes people think you're wearing a tinfoil hat about the globalist agenda and money, wealth distribution systems and all that. It gets a little heavy for a lot of people on their shoulders. So how to, do the preschool GSM intro. That's a great topic. I look forward to doing that as a call-in show. You said Saturday, Jake?
Saturday night, yeah. We didn't do a call-in show last
Saturday
week.
night should be. That's doable this Saturday.
Not next Saturday.
Next
Saturday we got all kinds of Christmas stuff coming up.
Next week's a tough one.
So you might only see us Monday through Friday, barely. Actually,
next week's tough. I'm a dance mom. My daughter's in the Nutcracker. It's a big deal. So, next week's gonna be very tough for me. It's lots to juggle. So, this Saturday call-in show, what time? 9?
Yeah,
or do you want to do 8? Go a little early.
Yeah, let's go with 9.
Go with 9.
Yeah.
You're more of a night owl.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think consistency on time is good too. So
we'll make sure Matthew Ronson is there at 8 o'clock to make sure you show up on time.
Let's do 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Yeah, I just thought about that. I'm off a little early that day, so let's do 8 p.m.
Okay.
Get it done.
I think an 8 o'clock show would be nice, and if we run long, so be it. So let's see what else. Let's see. People in the chat have reminded me that they have not received their cookies. I sent them out. I can't help it. I don't know.
We emailed the cookies.
Perhaps it's the mailman. Maybe he
I thought
intercepted.
I thought you said you emailed the cookies.
I don't know, Jake.
Okay.
You'll call the post office tomorrow and find out.
I tried to email
sure.
the cookies, and I keep getting this return sender thing, so I'm not sure what's happening, but we will get the cookie.
Also, Jesse spent this Thanksgiving.
Our Wisconsin Jesse.
Yeah, he spent Thanksgiving discussing GSM with his family members, and it sounds like things went over relatively
Well, of course
smoothly.
it did. His family's farmers. They understand natural climate change.
I hope Jesse can call and tell us about his Thanksgiving discussions.
Let us know how that went.
Let's see what else.
But that's cheating, though. I think that's easy for him to have that talk because his family isn't farming, so they understand cycles. They see it. They know it.
Let's see. Matt Bros, he said in 2009 they finished the corn harvest on Christmas Eve. You were talking about that earlier. And then I was talking, my voice is raspy because my kid gave me a head cold. And
it's going around now.
Yeah, kids are germinators.
Thanks, Lily.
Yeah. And then Spirit Crosswind popped in the chat and started singing a song. You're a mean one, Greta Grinch. You're a mean one. You're a mean one.
Okay.
Greta Grinch.
Okay, here we go.
Let's redo it, Jake.
Greta Grinch.
I'm ready for a parody. More parody songs. What do you think? And Jake's going to cut me off. And we're out. And we're not singing. Anyway, I won't make you sing right now.
That's good.
Jake, even though that's how we all got started here.
That's right. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight on this Tuesday evening show. Mari, thank you for being awesome like you always are in the chat.
Have a evening, everyone.
Guys, we'll see you in the morning for another live update. And yes, we will be back live tomorrow night. We're making up for missing all weekend. So tomorrow night we'll do 2 shows again. Thursday we'll be back to normal with the morning show, and then Friday night we'll do morning and then evening, and then we'll do a call-in show Saturday night 8 p.m. Guys, if you want to call in on the show, become a Patreon member. It doesn't matter what level you enter. If it's $1, $2, $5, whatever the case may be, you're still going to get access to the call-in phone number. So do us a favor if you have a chance and jump on over at the Patreon channel and become a member so we can hear from you guys. I'd love to hear your ideas on what to do, how to address your family during this time where it's kind of difficult to talk about certain things like climate change. You sure as heck can't talk about politics anymore. Check us out at thegrandsolarminimum.com. That's thegrandsolarminimum.com for all of your resources, articles that Mario writes, all the videos that we do, we put on this website as well, plus a ton of information about grand solar minimum, solar cycles, charts and graphs. If you love that kind of thing, it's all here, folks. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Make sure you check us out in the morning for a live update. Until then, have a good night, and we will talk soon. Take care, everybody.
All for the super chat.
Thanks. Live by example, Mari says. Sorry, I didn't mean I cut.
Just keep up the great work.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right, guys, we're out. See you.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.